If you're not familiar with this particular video or the contents of this playlist, what I do is I look at PlayStation Plus titles each and every month. We'll jump over to the official Metacritic page, look at the critical score, and determine collectively as to whether or not this is a great month or a not so great month. We got 3 games to look at this month. Overcooked, All You Can Eat, which is coming out on PlayStation 5. Hitman 2 and Predator Hunting Grounds, which are both for the PS4. We'll go ahead and start with Overcooked, All You Can Eat. If you are not familiar with Overcooked, you are doing yourself an incredible disservice. This is an addicting party game where you and friends work together to create dishes by running around a map and collecting ingredients, typically avoiding a litany of environmental hazards, which make it incredibly hard to complete your task. The first game, I think, was by far the more fun of the two. However, the first game did not support multiplayer in terms of online multiplayer. So it was only couch co-op, which why I said it was a great party game. But you couldn't play with your friends remotely. They did fix that in Overcooked 2. You can now play remotely with other people, which is great in the COVID world we live in. This particular collection of games takes all of the original Overcooked, plus all of Overcooked 2, plus all of the DLC, which is cosmetic items for your characters and different maps and modes and all that kind of stuff, and throws it all in one collection, spruces it up to 4K graphics, and releases it to the wild. Sits at an 84 Metacritic score, which I think is pretty good. I still maintain the first one was better than the second, but the nice thing about this collection is you don't have to worry about it anymore. So you're going to be able to play online if you're playing the second portion of this with other people and have fun and get frustrated just like I did when I used to host these elaborate parties with my friends. I like this game. I don't know how much legs it has. And by that I mean you'll invest time in it. You will hit a natural point where the game skill ramps up in difficulty and you'll probably get stuck. And it's one of these games where you kind of have to like get into it. Where you kind of have to get warm. So you have to play through the first couple levels to kind of like, oh yeah, and get your synergies down. Depending on who you're playing with will radically determine what you're doing and how you're playing. But it's fun. It's cool. I'm glad they're doing this. It was a game I was interested in but had no like desire to buy personally. So the fact that they're going to include it on PlayStation Plus, that's perfect for me personally. Next we have Hitman 2, which is incredibly dated. Hitman 2 is on PlayStation 4 from 2018. I remember playing Hitman 2 long before then. And this game's been around for a while. Interestingly enough, Hitman seems to have come back with a big resurgence over the last few years. Particularly, its latest entry did receive significant critical acclaim. I know they just released a new edition of the game, so I suspect they're probably trying to drum up excitement for that by giving away some of the older stuff for free. If you haven't played Hitman, it's a third-person stealth game where you are basically dressing up in various costumes and trying to work your way through a pretty elaborate simulation in order to successfully complete an objective, whether it be to steal something or most likely kill somebody, because you are the hitman, without either getting caught or doing what I did and turning all the cheats on and not caring and just having fun with golden guns and blowing everybody away. You could do either one. It was fun at the time. I don't know how much replayability it has. I know a lot of people would argue there's multiple ways to complete an objective. And while I do agree with that, I feel like the gameplay loop got very samey after a while. I did not play the latest iteration of Hitman, so maybe they have made radical changes on the newest stuff. Obviously, this isn't that. But I think it's a good entry point, even though there was a first game, which was definitely not nearly as good as a lot of people remember. It was fun at the time. But if you're interested, it's cool, because it's coming to PlayStation Plus. It sits at an 82, which I think is a bit high, but I am not a critic. Or am I? Next is Predator Hunting Grounds, which came out to disastrous reviews, sitting at a 56 score on Metacritic. This was a cooperative game where you basically, those asymmetrical type games where, you know, one person, like kind of like Evolve, if you remember Evolve, where you have like one bad guy and then a bunch of good guys, and it just didn't work out. It wasn't polished at all. It was definitely a very big budget I'm sorry, it was not a big budget game, a very small budget game. Significant graphical issues, significant litany of technical problems, and other things that just made it look and play and feel unpolished. Lots of crashes, lots of bugs, not lots of character customization. It just was one of those. I don't even know why it came out when it did, honestly. Like, Predator is, I mean, to me, I remember as a franchise, obviously, the first one with Arnie, like an iconic movie of its own, but the franchise never really took off. So it's weird that somebody was able to scoop up the rights to an old kind of dead movie franchise and then try to make it hip by releasing a game with it. It just didn't really seem to work out. So it doesn't sit very favorably on Metacritic score. I think that this is a very realistic representation. This is a game that you may download and play a round or two with your friends just to see like, oh, what is this about? But there's no deep dive here. There's no real reason to come back, no excessive customization, no great progression system. It's, I think, a game that's going to be largely forgotten just as fast as it's installed. So overall, would I give this month a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Honestly, as much as I'm interested in Overcooked, I think it's a big thumbs down for me. I have maintained that I think PlayStation Plus typically ramps up their titles at the beginning of the year, leading into what should have been E3, although I know that E3 was very different again this year, particularly because Sony wasn't at the table. But typically around that June, July is when you start to see some of the really big hit games come out. And then it starts to trail off as we lead into the holiday months. And unfortunately, this seems to be one of those trail down months. Overcooked, I do maintain, is a fun game, but I suspect most people who were interested in this type of party game have probably already played it and gotten their fill from it. I would definitely classify this along with titles like Gang Beasts or what's the one with the little bean people running around? Yeah, I don't even remember. That's what I'm saying. Like, it just seems like a game that just gets forgotten and kind of like we move on to the next thing. Hitman 2 is a very dated game. It's old. It looks okay. I don't know how much graphical enhancements it's going to have on it, but it's just old and it's dated. And the gameplay was okay at the time. I think it was passable. It was always kind of one of those fringe type titles where you had not a lot of support behind it. It wasn't a major AAA studio working on it. It kind of, IO Interactive has never really been known for like world-class games. This is by the same people who made Tomb Raider. So you're in that cusp of like, it's an iconic name maybe, but not a game that you're just running over to play. And then lastly, Predator Hunting Grounds is largely forgettable and I suspect will be kind of forgotten very, very quickly. So not the best month. Leave your comments below. Let me know your thoughts on this particular drop. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.